Some are even worried that they won't have enough to distribute second doses to those who have already received their first shot. President-elect Joe Biden has said ramping up vaccinations will be a priority of his administration, promising to vaccinate 100 million Americans in 100 days.
Now here in Connecticut, Phase 1B is underway, and right now only people older than 75 are eligible. Providers may fill appointments with other eligible Phase 1B members if spots open up. You can sign up through the Vaccine Administration Management System, VAMS. We have a link to the site on our website with more details on how to sign up. The state says it's experiencing high traffic volume on that website and on their phone line as well, so expect delays. Governor Lamont just provided an update on the state's fight against COVID-19. Since Friday, more than 138,000 tests were administered, with over 6,700 coming back positive, making the daily test positivity rate here in Connecticut 4.85%. And since Friday, 16 more patients have been hospitalized. And sadly, there were 76 additional COVID-19 related deaths over the weekend.
Mass vaccinations now underway at the old Pratt & Whitney runway in East Hartford. This vaccination clinic will be open 7 days a week from 8:30 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon. The site operating by appointment only.
At 79 years old, I wanted to get both shots, get cleared, so maybe we stand a better chance of having a little more normal life than what we've been living through this last year.
The clinic is expected to vaccinate up to 10,000 people per week.
High school winter sports are set to start back up this week. The plan approved by the CIAC allows practice to start tomorrow, January 19th, and games no sooner than February 8th. Basketball, hockey, gymnastics, and swimming are among the sports safe enough to begin practicing and that eventually have competitions. Elementary school students in New Haven will return to in-person learning starting tomorrow. Pre-K through third grade students will come in 4 days a week for in-person learning. Wednesdays will be fully remote and deep cleaning days. Meanwhile, fourth and fifth graders will be in-person 2 days a week and remote 3 days a week. And grades 6 through 12 will remain fully remote for the time being. UConn students moving back onto campus this past weekend for the spring semester, but once again, things looking a lot different this year. UConn is continuing to work under a reduced occupancy model of about 50%. Students were required to take a COVID test before moving back in, and spring break has been pushed back to April. All right, and switching gears now to the Weather Watch. 2021 has brought us some very quiet weather, and this nice weather making it the perfect day to get outside. In fact, the weather was so nice, Sleeping Giant State Park in Hamden closed this afternoon after reaching capacity. This is video from earlier in the year, hence all the shorts, but we have been seeing some above average temperatures lately. And FOX61 Chief Meteorologist Rachel Frank is joining us now in the Weather Center. Rach, boy, mild, huh?
I know, and we continue that way tomorrow, but I have much colder temperatures in the 7-day than we've seen, and it looks like it will have some, say, short-lived staying power. Okay. Let's take a look outside right now. I wanted to show you from Deb in Winstead, a little coating of snow. This is before the sun went down earlier. We also had a snow squall that was fairly impressive up in Norfolk. This is from Julia Regis, and another one from Glen Hill. I love how everybody's smiling, although they're probably out getting blasted with that snow in the face, and you can still see some scattered rain and snow showers. These will be out through, let's say, 6 or 7 o'clock, depending on where you live. You can see it's also starting to kind of deteriorate as it pushes into southeastern areas. So a couple of light rain showers right now, Colchester up through Lebanon, and you're seeing that through Brooklyn and Killingly where it's coming down a little bit heavier. But this is snow falling right now in New Hartford and even coating up the roads a little bit, adding to a couple of slippery spots for Sharon over through Cornwall, Goshen. That's heading back into Torrington. And this is round 2. We had a previous batch that came through with that first line. This is a quick moving disturbance though. By 7 or 8 o'clock, we are all dry and we'll see temperatures dropping back into the 20s tonight and another beautiful day out there for us tomorrow. Current temperatures were in the upper 30s to low 40s inland, low to mid 40s for the Connecticut shoreline, with overnight lows dropping back into the upper 20s in the Hartford area and low 30s in New Haven. We're going to clear things out. Tomorrow, partly cloudy skies, highs in the upper 30s to right around 40 degrees. And I wanted to show you Wednesday, there is a chance for a scattered snow shower or a few flurries. this is about all the action that we can find here in the weather department. No big storms in sight, but again, it might be enough to coat the ground in a couple locations Wednesday morning. Otherwise, we'll see high temperatures climbing into the low to mid 30s as we head into the afternoon, upper 20s for the Torrington area. And I wanted to show you that cold air that's been stuck at the top of the globe finally pays us a visit. You'll see those temperatures here in the extended forecast. Here's your 7-day. Mostly cloudy with highs in the mid 30s on Thursday. We're back up into the mid 40s on Friday, but here's where that roller coaster ride just kind of stops, and we kind of stall here at the bottom. Starting this weekend and persisting through much of next week, we're thinking below average temperatures. Is this weird for us in winter? No, this typically happens to us many, many times, but as we were talking about in the long range forecast earlier this year, we would have these shots where it would get cold briefly, but it probably wouldn't last too long. I think we're going to see this cold stick around likely into the first week or so of February. But after that, I think we start to ease back into a near to above average weather pattern yet again. Of course, we will get there when we get there. We're going to keep you posted every step of the way. Brent and Jen.
All right, thank you very much, Rachel. We are following breaking news right now out of New Haven. A 4-block section of Dixwell Avenue has been shut down for an investigation. The investigation spanning from Dorman Street to Goodrich Street. Fox 61's Dave Puglisi at the scene. He told us that he saw at least 3 markers for shell casing. So an investigation, again, underway. We'll bring you more information as we learn more. We're also following breaking news out of North Stonington. Route 49, we're told, is closed between Pendleton Hill Road and Ella Wheeler Road in both directions following a 2-car crash. Information limited right now, but we do know that Lifestar has been called to the scene. We'll bring you any new information on air and online as soon as we get it.
New Haven police are investigating a deadly crash that happened over the weekend. It happened Saturday night near the Temple Street garage. Police have just identified the victim of the crash as 24-year-old Tamango Housley of Hamden. Police say Housley lost control of his car and collided with a concrete barrier on the side of the road. He was taken to a hospital where he was later pronounced dead. Anyone with information on this crash is asked to contact police. An investigation underway in Cromwell after crews battled a fire on Industrial Road at a Super 8 motel. It happened around 1:40 in the morning on the 3rd floor. Officials on scene say the fire started due to damage to the AC system. There were no severe injuries reported. However, some people were treated on scene for smoke inhalation. There is severe damage to the building. Motel 8 staff were able to move occupants to a nearby hotel, and the motel is currently closed for repairs. Wallingford police arrest a man after a deadly stabbing on Saturday night.
Police are charging 23-year-old Christopher Carlson with murder. This happened Saturday night outside of a cafe. Fox 61's Tony Terzi spoke to the owner, who says she is in complete shock by what happened.
Just before 10:30 Saturday night, here outside the Corner Cafe in the Yalesville section of Wallingford, 2 men had an altercation. One of them ended up stabbed to death.
Officers responded and they located a victim, laying down in the parking lot, who sustained several stab wounds.
The victim, 32-year-old Ernest Cipoli of Wallingford, was pronounced dead at a local hospital. 23-year-old Christopher Carlson of Meriden was arrested and charged with murder.
An altercation took place at the cafe prior to the actual incident, but I'm not really sure if they knew each other prior to this.
The Corner Cafe owner, who said she was too distraught by what happened to appear on camera, tells Fox 61 she's reviewed the restaurant videotape and that neither man spoke to one another inside the bar that evening.
This time, unfortunately, I can't comment on that.
This is the Wallingford Police Department's 2nd homicide investigation in 8 months. The previous involving 17-year-old Novin Diaz, who was found beaten to death floating in Community Lake in early May. His 21-year-old uncle, David Diaz Perez, was charged with his murder.
The last homicide we investigated was the Oakdale Theater, which was some years ago now.
That was a shooting in the Oakdale parking lot following the Meek Mill concert in December of 2016. Wallingford police said Chris Carlson's bond has been raised from $500,000 to $1 million, and he will appear in New Haven Superior Court tomorrow if he does not post bond. In Wallingford, Tony Terzi, Fox 61 News.
It is the week of the inauguration, and the nation is preparing for the possibility of more armed protests, not just in D.C., but around other state capitals. 2.5 times the number of troops have been brought into Washington for this transfer of power. That's compared to prior years. By Inauguration Day, 25,000 National Guard members will be protecting the Capitol, White House, and federal property, along with Secret Service and D.C. law enforcement. Defense officials say they are vetting all of the National Guard troops out of concern of a possible insider attack. The latest from the head of the D.C. National Guard, that's what the information we just had, came today. And that person said it's basically an enhanced background check for the thousands of National Guard members who are patrolling the streets of the nation's capital ahead of Inauguration Day. Service members are also getting additional training once they get to D.C., making it clear that if they see or hear something that's out of sorts, it should be reported immediately.
Meanwhile, there was a brief scare at the U.S. Capitol earlier today. Reports initially said there was an external security threat, but according to officials, it turned out to be just a small fire a few blocks away. Already, there have been arrests of unauthorized people attempting to get through checkpoints, including one from Connecticut, a Stratford woman accused of trying to impersonate an officer while entering the nation's capital. Police say 63-year-old Linda McGovern tried to talk her way through a Capitol Police checkpoint, and when unsuccessful, she allegedly tried to flee and was arrested. Authorities say the Stratford woman told police she was an officer and part of the presidential cabinet. And on Sunday, a man was arrested for carrying a pistol without a license. Another man found on Friday with 500 rounds of ammunition in his vehicle and a loaded gun. D.C.'s mayor has asked people not to travel to the area and says they are trying to plan for anything.
Our police department, working with our federal law enforcement partners and the United States Army, quite frankly, also has a plan to pivot if we have any attacks in our neighborhoods.
The threat of armed protests in other capital cities remains despite a calmer than expected weekend. And meanwhile, heightened security still in place at the state capitol in Hartford. This morning, both Capitol Police and the National Guard were on patrol. Huge Guard vehicles were parked outside the building. Hundreds of officers were on duty Sunday, following a warning from the FBI about potential problems in cities across the country ahead of the inauguration. There were no issues in Hartford.
Our preparations and our response was parallel to what the other states are going through. Certainly you don't see us boarding up our windows as others have. Some have gone to greater lengths, some have gone to lesser lengths. We believe that we were parallel to what other states are doing and appropriate to the intelligence that we had.
State officials expect the security to be in place throughout the week, and they are reminding the public that if they see or hear anything suspicious, they can call the tip line at 1-866-HLS-TIPS. Well, post offices were closed today in observance of the MLK holiday, but another note to keep in mind, the U.S. Postal Service says some mailboxes in Hartford will be out of service through Thursday morning, and that is also being done as a security measure as inauguration festivities get underway in Washington.
Vice President-elect Kamala Harris has officially resigned from her California Senate seat. The move ends Harris's one-term, 4-year Senate career. On Wednesday, she is making history as the nation's first Black and first South Asian U.S. Vice President. California Governor Gavin Newsom has already named California's Secretary of State Alex Padilla to fill Harris's seat.
Meanwhile, President-elect Joe Biden is adding to his incoming administration. According to a CNN source, Biden is expected to nominate Gary Gensler to serve as the commissioner of the Securities and Exchange Commission, and Rohit Chopra, to lead the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Gary Gensler is a former Goldman Sachs executive known as a ferocious advocate for stricter regulation on big banks. Chopra is currently a member of the Federal Trade Commission.
On his final full day in office, President Trump plans to issue around 100 pardons and commutations. That's according to 3 people familiar with the matter. The president will reportedly pardon white-collar criminals, high-profile rappers, and others on Tuesday. For now, Mr. Trump is not expected to grant himself a pardon. On Sunday, the White House held a meeting to finalize that list of pardons. We're told that this is the last batch to be made unless the president decides to grant pardons to controversial allies, members of his family, or himself.
Martin Luther King Day might have a different meaning for many this year. The U.S. saw racial tensions rise in 2020 and also bid farewell to civil rights activist and King's friend.
Yeah, Martin Luther King Jr. Day is celebrated each year on the third Monday in January. It became a national celebration on January 20th, 1986. Martin Luther King Jr. fought tirelessly for the advancement of the civil rights movement using nonviolent civil disobedience. The celebration not only taking another meaning this year, but also being celebrated differently. Many annual events, including the wreath laying at the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial in Washington, D.C., now being held virtually. His life and legacy also celebrated virtually here in Connecticut.
Fox 61's Carmen Chow shares messages from those who knew him and those who were inspired by him.
I have a dream.
No matter what you call me, I'm black within. African American, young girl with the puffy hair.
Members of New Britain Youth Services Youth Leadership Group participated in memorializing Dr. King Jr. These children may not have walked the steps from the 50s, but they do believe history has repeated itself. New Britain Fire Chief Raul Ortiz was one of the speakers. He is the first Latino fire chief in the department's 187-year history.
Dr. King was placed in a position to help his fellow brother and sister. We're all placed in a position to help our brothers and sisters.
His brothers and sisters at the 36th Annual Scholarship Breakfast holding a discussion. Was Dr. King a movement, a moment, or both? Deacon Art Miller was arrested in 2015 for kneeling down in the intersection of Bloomfield and Albany Avenues in Hartford. He wanted to prove a point, that Black Lives Matter.
He was not the only nor the first one to die. Like Emmett Till, he was not the first to die. Like George Floyd or Breonna Taylor, they were not the only ones or the first to die by the hands of the police.
Children of Ralph Abernathy, the man who mentored Dr. King, shared flashbacks of the civil rights movement.
To live constantly in fear of maybe our house being bombed again. My mother and I escaped our house being bombed in the 10th of January, 1957. It's a miracle that my mother and I lived.
The chairman of the MLK breakfast spoke powerfully on the definition of racism, applying it to today's recent events.
Racism is not a mean people being mean to a people. Racism is people in positions of power denying a people their right, their inalienable right to life, liberty, and justice.
Carmen Chow, Fox 61 News.
Events were also held in person today, albeit outside and socially distanced.
Fox 61's Matt Karen shows us how Dr. Martin Luther King's words have even more meaning today.
I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia.
The words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. echo as loudly today as they did in 1963.
If Dr. King gave his speech that he gave in 1960s, in 2021, it would apply just as today. We've made some strides, but as I've stated, neighborhoods like North Hartford have not recovered from the riots of when Dr. King died.
Across Connecticut, events honor Dr. King's life and legacy. Here at Hartford's Urban Hope Refuge Church, a service organized by the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Holiday Commission.
It means so much to keep Dr. King's dream alive.
To hear in Simsbury.
I love you, I need you to survive.
The unveiling of a permanent memorial, 10 years in the making.
You know, we hope that this can be a place for field trips and that those who visit from all over can take away a little bit more love and kindness for their neighbors, as Dr. King would have wanted, because we need that a lot right now.
Connecticut was where Dr. King felt his calling, spending 2 summers in the 1940s working the tobacco fields of the Farmington River Valley, experiencing racial integration in the North in stark contrast to the segregated South.
Just down the street, Dr. King ate at Hot Pots during his time here and everything that Dr. King stood for, this neighborhood needs.
We've made some significant advances. As I look around, there are many people of color that are doing some of the things that weren't allowed so many years ago.
We need not only racial justice in policing and our criminal justice system, but also in housing, economic opportunity, healthcare.
There's been a lot of very positive social change, but there's so much more to do. And I think that the recent events of this past year have shown that we need to continue to ask ourselves, what can we do for others?
This memorial is made up of 5 glass panels representing the different stages of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s life. It was made possible by groups of Simsbury High School students, and it will now be listed as a site on Connecticut's Freedom Trail. Reporting in Simsbury, Matt Caron, Fox 61 News.
All right, thank you very much, Matt. To celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s life, a new mural at the Mahoney Recreation Center in Manchester was completed today. Artist Ben Keller painted the nearly 30-foot mural in just 3 days, a project that was led by CT Murals. The hope is that those who see the mural also see the messages and the values that Dr. King stood for.
Love, compassion, togetherness, all these things, so it makes you want to examine thyself and say, like, what can I do better so that I can ensure that the world isn't divided?
Definitely hope, like strength, optimism and strength for this new year.
The mural is set to be officially unveiled in June during the town's Juneteenth celebrations. Juneteenth has been named an official town holiday in Manchester. In other news, Nestle has issued a massive recall of Hot Pockets. More than 762,000 pounds of pepperoni Hot Pockets were recalled over possible contamination of pieces of glass and hard plastic. It applies to 12 packs of pepperoni Hot Pockets with a best buy date of February 2022. If you have them in your fridge, you should throw them away.
The Federal Aviation Administration has given the green light to a Massachusetts company to operate semi-automated drones. American Robotics Incorporated is now the first company approved by the FAA to fly drones without a human operator or observer on site. The drones will be limited to rural areas for now and altitudes below 400 feet. That development, though, could allow for expanded commercial applications of drone flight. Well, the IRS is urging Americans to ditch paper returns and file your taxes electronically this year. The service still dealing with a backlog of nearly 700 million unprocessed paper returns from last year. The start of the 2021 tax season has been delayed to February 12th to prevent further backlogs. And Google has completed its acquisition of the electronics and fitness tracking company Fitbit. Google says the acquisition is hardware and device oriented. It's not about data, and it promises it will protect people's privacy. That includes not using your health and wellness data for Google Ads. All right, you still have 2 chances to win a big lottery jackpot. Right now, the Mega Millions jackpot is worth an estimated $850 million, which is mind-boggling. The Powerball jackpot is about $730 million, and the Mega Millions drawing is set for tomorrow, the Powerball on Wednesday. You can watch both on CW20. And tonight at 10, another Connecticut business getting some help from Barstool. A CCSU bar is the latest recipient of the Barstool Fund, how a community is rallying around the restaurant during these trying times. Be sure to join us on Fox 61 tonight at 8 p.m. It's the premiere of 911, followed by the premiere of 911 Lone Star at 9. And then be sure to join us for all the day's headlines and weather on the Fox 61 News at 10 and 11. And that's our time for now. Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you tonight at 10 and 11. Have a good one.